Ultimatum at Lagrange Point 1. The shadow came first. Over the course of 3 minutes, half the satellites in geostationary orbit went dark. Communications flickered. The sun dimmed. Then the silhouette of something massive crept across the upper atmosphere, like a god had pulled a lid over Earth's sky. High above Earth, positioned at the Lagrange point between the planet and its moon, the Invictus arrived. It was not a ship in the human sense. The vessel resembled a moving continent, kilometers long, layered in black hull plating, with jagged ridges like obsidian mountains. No visible engines, no windows, just alien geometry and silence. Until it spoke. At exactly 8 o'clock Universal Time Coordinated, a transmission hijacked every broadcast band on Earth. From ancient AM radio to neural uplinks, every screen flickered into focus. A hologram shimmered above Times Square, the Eiffel Tower, the Kremlin, and Beijing Skyloop. A woman stood within the projection, regal, terrifying, with silver skin and eyes like smoldering suns. Draped in violet robes and crowned with glimmering fractal crystals, she radiated authority. "I am Zyra, Empress Regent of the Vaelari Galactic Empire," she announced, her voice layered with what sounded like multiple harmonics, each word vibrating into the skull. "You have been observed. Your civilizations are erratic, your military obsolete, your species primitive." She paused, letting the insult settle. "Nevertheless, you are to be given a choice: submission and assimilation into the Vaelari order or annihilation. You have 24 Earth hours to comply." The transmission ended. Silence fell. In Geneva, beneath 70 meters of concrete and steel, the UN Defense Council met in emergency session. The chamber was built for nuclear winter, not alien diplomacy. Yet here they were, presidents, generals, scientists, and diplomats all jammed around the central table. And at its head, Captain Norel Bass. Tall, sharp-jawed, and forged by decades of off-world service in Earth's orbital defense corps. Nor was no stranger to military theater. But this was different. This was the stuff of myth, the kind of confrontation humanity always feared, joked about, and dismissed in the same breath. She scanned the room. Confusion and fear mixed with anger. "This isn't just a first contact," she said evenly. "This is an ultimatum. If we blink, Earth becomes a tributary colony." General Vance, head of U.S. Joint Aerospace Command, slammed his fist on the table. "We hit him with everything we've got. If they want to fight, we give them a fight." "With what?" The EU delegate scoffed. "Nukes? Fighter jets?" "They disabled half our satellites by showing up." "We sue for peace," said a quiet voice. Dr. Lee is saying, head of Earth's Planetary Ethics Consortium. "Acknowledge our inferiority, offer tribute. They might spare us." "That's not peace," Nurse said. "That's extinction on a leash." The room began to fray into factions. Hawks versus doves, military versus civilian. And then, slowly, a hand rose from the back. "I propose a third option," said Dr. Marcus Reyes. Heads turned. The man was not military, not a politician. He was a historian, a specialist in human warfare and strategic anthropology. His credentials had once been vital during the Martian disarmament accords. Since then, he'd mostly vanished from view. Reyes stepped forward and placed a simple data pad on the table. "If the Empress thinks humans are primitive," he said softly, "then she's never seen what we're truly capable of." "You want to show them our history?" Nur asked, raising a brow. "Not our history," he said. "Our wars. The ones we fought when there was no empire, no galaxy watching. When the only enemies we had were ourselves." Murmurs spread. Some were intrigued. Others disgusted. Reyes continued. "From the world wars to the orbital siege of Luna Prime, from Hiroshima to the burning skies of Baghdad. Our past is soaked in blood and ingenuity. We didn't just survive violence. We industrialized it." He looked around. "They think we are primitive. Let's correct that mistake." Nur leaned back in her chair. The idea was reckless. It wasn't a missile or a fleet, but it had weight. Psychological warfare. The one battlefield the Empire might not be prepared for. "Where would we find that kind of material?" she asked. Reyes smiled grimly. "The Andes Vault. buried in the Aconcagua ice shelf, sealed since 2175. Everything from trench samples to drone warfare telemetry. Forgotten on purpose. The idea settled over the room like ash. Nor exhaled, then nodded once. Form a team, she ordered. You've got 18 hours. Countdown to Imperial attack. 18 hours. Humanity's answer will be history itself. The archive beneath the Andes. The cold was unnatural. Not the ordinary chill of high-altitude air or the bite of alpine wind, but the mechanical dead cold of a cryo-sealed facility untouched by light or warmth for nearly 2 centuries. Captain Noor Elbaz stepped off the drop shuttle onto the snow-dusted landing pad, the thunder of its descent still echoing through the glacier crevasses. Behind her followed Dr. Marcus Reyes, combat historian Lieutenant May Tanaka, and Akash Singh, Earth's youngest neurosimulation engineer. Before them loomed the Aconcagua Deep Archive, known to very few by its official designation, Citaribos. Place gives me the creeps already, May muttered, tightening her gloves as the group approached a recessed black door embedded in the rock face. A rusted placard lay half-buried in snow. Warning: Class X psychological content. Access requires global security authorization. Akash adjusted his neural visor. I thought this place was just a myth. Reyes didn't smile. It was, until we needed a monster under the bed. Nur placed her hand on the scanner. A light flickered, scanned, then pulsed green. The rock shuddered, gears whirring deep beneath the mountain. With a long, groaning hiss, the vault opened. Inside, it was a museum of madness. 10 stories of stacked archives, steel corridors, reinforced glass chambers, cryoshelves, and suspended memory cores, all cataloged with surgical precision. The walls were lined with preserved uniforms, blood-stained flags, radiation-blackened debris, and analog weapons in transparent casing. A holographic voice welcomed them. Welcome, authorized personnel. You have entered Human Conflict Archive 1A. Contents include global, colonial, and orbital warfare, 1900 to 2150 CE. Proceed with emotional regulation protocols. Nor looked to Reyes. Let's get what we came for. For 6 hours, they moved through the facility, collecting and curating. Reyes directed them with methodical detachment, but even he seemed disturbed by what they unearthed. One chamber held artifact from the First World War. Rifles still caked in trench mud, letters written in bloodied cursive, gas masks melted from chlorine exposure. A life-size simulation activated as they passed, showing a soldier choking on mustard gas, skin blistering as he screamed for his mother. Another held drone footage from the fall of Mogadishu, where U.S. robotic sentries fired blindly into alleys. Collateral efficiency, 94%. The AI declared proudly as civilians fell like shadows. Akash quietly threw up in a corner after watching a 10-second clip from the Congo cleansing campaign, an illegal orbital rod strike that vaporized 4 city blocks without warning. Why would we keep this? He asked, wiping his mouth. Reyes answered without looking up. Because someone knew this day might come. Later, they entered the nuclear gallery. A sphere of mirrored black surrounded them, and as they stepped into the center, the simulation engaged. The sun exploded, or so it seemed, a double flash, so intense their visors dimmed automatically. A white wave expanded, swallowing a replica of Hiroshima's skyline. Then came the blast wind, compressed air flattening everything, even the ghosts. And then the ash began to fall. Meitanaka's voice cracked. How many? Reyes stared into the fallout simulation. Over 200,000 in seconds. That was just the first one. They moved on. Finally, Reyes directed them to a central terminal labeled Tactical Emotive Simulation Engine, TEAS. This is what we need, he said. It's not enough to show the Empire facts. We have to make them feel what we felt. Terror, guilt, suffering. Akash's eyes lit up. You mean weaponizing emotional recall? Reyes nodded grimly. Exactly. Akash, you'll stitch it. Provide military commentary overlays. Nor, I want a personal narrative frame. Something real. Something they'll remember. Noor hesitated, then pulled an old data chip from her vest pocket. My great-grandmother was at Aleppo when the fires came. She survived by hiding under the body of her brother. She swallowed. Her voice is on this. It's raw, terrifying. Reyes accepted it solemnly. Perfect. They fed the chip into the teeth. Lights blinked. Processing began. Over the next 2 hours, the system compiled something unlike anything that had ever existed. A multi-sensory, neural sync broadcast designed to simulate the worst of humanity's war legacy. The smell of napalm, the scream of artillery, the taste of blood and cordite. A history of horror too brutal to forget and too human to ignore. Back on the surface, dusk had fallen. The Invictus still hovered like a mountain in the sky, casting Earth in shadow. Then came the ping. An Imperial scout drone had entered the upper stratosphere. Small, sleek, undetectable to most Earth systems. But not theirs. Looks like they're watching, Nurse said. Good, Reyes muttered. Let them. Countdown to attack. 6 hours. The war wasn't coming. It had already happened dozens of times. The Empire just hadn't seen it yet. Broadcast of 1,000 wars. The Galactic Empire had known wars. They'd crushed rebellions on 6 moons. Vaporized a silicon-based civilization. Hunted pirate fleets through nebulae. Their conquest stretched over 10,000 systems. And yet, they had never seen anything like what began broadcasting at 2 o'clock Universal Time Coordinated. It wasn't a declaration. It wasn't a weapon. It was a story, and it shattered them. Inside the Invictus's throne deck, Empress Regent Zyra prepared to give her final ultimatum to Earth. Her captain stood in perfect alignment. The countdown read, T00:90:00. Weapons charged. Planet targeting solutions locked. Her victory was routine, scripted. Then the transmission struck. Without warning, every holoscreen across the fleet bloomed to life. Every visor, command terminal, even private implants were hijacked. The override signal bypassed Imperial firewalls as if they didn't exist. At first, just a flicker. Then, a child's voice. Crackling, soft, female. Arabic accent. Fear behind every word. The sky was red when it started. I held on to my brother. He told me not to cry, but he was already gone. Then it began. They stood in the trenches of the Somme. The smell hit first: mold, sweat, gun oil rot. The air thick with chlorine gas. Dirt filled their mouths. Machine guns rattled like hell's own drums. Bodies fell. Screams came in dozens of languages. The viewer, Imperial or human, was inside the simulation. Every frame forced emotional mirroring. Pain, confusion, panic. Without warning, the scene cut. Now they were in Stalingrad. Frozen fingers gripped empty rifles. Rats gnawed at corpses. A soldier sobbed as he watched his mother, also a soldier, shoot herself to avoid capture. The city burned around them. Another flash. Dresden. A firestorm, not of bombs, but of wind. The heat vacuum sucked in every breath. Civilians clawed at sealed shelters. Flame tornadoes consumed everything. The Empress staggered, clutching her head. What is this madness? She gasped. Her second-in-command dropped to his knees, trembling. Then came Hiroshima. A quiet moment. Birds chirped. Children walked to school. Then the flash. The double shadow. Time froze, just long enough for every Imperial watching to realize what was coming. The explosion swallowed the city. On Earth, in the Geneva command bunker, Captain Noor Elbaz watched as the simulation broadcast propagated across the planet and into orbit. Every major hub, every receiver, every frequency. Akash confirmed the analytics. Over 99.3% fleet penetration. Their neurocircuitry can't filter it. They're feeling all of it. It's working. Reyes didn't smile. Don't celebrate. The point isn't to defeat them. It's to show them we already defeated ourselves. Back aboard Invictus, the simulations escalated. Vietnam, Fallujah, Syria, Somalia. Orbital drone strikes over Lagos. Plasma shelling in New Singapore. Rod from God, kinetic bombardments on Martian insurgents. Each flashpoint showed not aliens, not invasions. Us, fighting ourselves with ingenuity and cruelty unmatched by any other known race. The program ended with 3 letters. World 3. Nuclear winter simulations. Starvation. Psychosis. Cannibalism. A mother singing to her child while dying from radiation burns. Then silence. These were the wars we waged without knowing the galaxy was watching, a narrator's voice said. It was Reyes. Calm. Deadpan. Honest. If this is what we did to ourselves, ask what we would do to an invader. Admiral Corix of the Imperial Dawn screamed and ripped the neural implant from his head. On 5 other capital ships, medical emergencies were declared. Fleet-wide panic spread like fire and vacuum. One Imperial ensign, barely a century old, fainted and began convulsing. Her crewmates simply stared at their trembling hands, unable to comprehend the depth of human brutality. They had no reference point. Empires razed cities, but humans turned destruction into art. Empires executed. Humans documented genocide in 4K. Empires controlled fear. Humans sold it. In Geneva, Reyes whispered. Now comes the question. Nur nodded grimly. She turned to the final scene of the broadcast. A single survivor, a scarred woman, aged by grief, standing over a war memorial. She looks up and speaks. We are not proud of this, but we remember, and we do not forget. Choose peace, or choose to meet the architects of war itself. Back on Invictus, silence ruled. Zyra stared blankly at the darkened holofeed. Her pupils, once blazing stars, dimmed. She turned slowly to her war council. Stand down. Shock rippled across the command deck. A few officers blinked. Others remained frozen, unsure if they'd misheard. I said stand down. Weapons power downs echoed through the hull like sighs of relief. The countdown stopped at 1 minute and 12 seconds. We will not attack this planet, Zyra said. We will open negotiations. One of her generals protested. But Empress, their weapon was emotion. Intellect, not arms. Zyra turned her full gaze on him. And what greater weapon is there when wielded without mercy? Countdown aborted. Humanity's history had become its shield. The Galactic Empire chose not to test what came next. Deterrence etched in blood. The war that never came ended with a silence louder than any weapon humanity had ever built. The Invictus hovered in Earth's orbit like a dormant god. For the first time since its arrival, its engines powered down. No threats, no ultimatums, just silence, and a lingering echo of a message humanity had long buried, then dug up as both warning and weapon. In Geneva's underground command chamber, Captain Noor Elbaz sat quietly at the head of the council table, her expression unreadable. Screens around her displayed live feeds of the galactic fleet. One by one, their targeting systems went dark. Shields lowered. Assault algorithms paused mid-cycle, then deleted. They backed off, said Mai Tanaka, still clutching the data chip containing her grandfather's fall a few letters. They saw, Reyes whispered, and they believed. Akash didn't celebrate. His hands trembled slightly, still buzzing from neural feedback. We hurt them, not with bombs, with memory. Nor stood. Her voice was calm, deliberate. Then let's make the next move ours. Hours later, a transmission was received from the Invictus. No threats this time, only a formal request for dialogue. The Empress region appeared, once again, over every major city. Her tone had changed. Gone was the imperial pomp. In its place was the faint, measured cadence of someone who had looked into a pit and found themselves staring back. People of Earth, the Vaelari Empire recognizes your sovereignty. We request peace and understanding. The message stunned the globe. For all their technology, their arrogance, the Empire had never truly understood war. Not as humans did. Not as something more than conquest. Something ancient. Something personal. A summit was arranged. In the neutral corridor of a stationary orbital platform between Earth and the Vaelari flagship, Captain Noor met Empress Zyra face to face. The meeting was brief. No diplomats. No pomp. Just two leaders representing species too dangerous to ever misunderstand each other again. We have no desire to expand, nor said plainly, only to live. Zyra inclined her head. And we now understand what it cost you to earn that right. They signed a pact that day, one that would be remembered not for the ink on it, but for the ghosts it honored. Yet peace did not come without questions. Across Earth, a storm of protests erupted. Nightmares should not be statecraft. Read one banner in Johannesburg. In New Delhi, crowds burned simulation relics. Survivors' families asked if their ancestors' suffering had been exploited. A debate raged. Was it ethical to weaponize grief? To turn trauma into deterrence? At a university in Cape Town, Reyes gave a quiet lecture to a class of students born after the Martian disarmament. He held up a charred helmet for Verdun. "This is not a trophy," he said. "It's a reminder." "But do they fear us now?" a student asked. "No," Reyes replied. "They respect the cost of provoking us." That's not the same thing. Outside the classroom, a wall bore fresh graffiti. "Never again" is not a threat. It's a promise. In orbit, May Tanaka worked with Imperial archivists to establish the Joint Galactic War Ethics Consortium, a team of historians, peace scholars, and military advisors from both civilizations. Their first order of business: translate Earth's war archives into Vaelari-compatible formats. The project wasn't just for deterrence. It was for prevention. "We won't let memory rot in vaults anymore," she said in a press release. "We'll teach our past so no one repeats it. Not us, not them." Akash, meanwhile, declined all job offers. He disappeared for 3 months, reappearing only to publish an open-source VR project titled Before the Silence, a simulation not of war, but of the moments before it. A soldier hesitating to fire, a general choosing to wait, a mother hiding a child instead of running. The project spread like wildfire through both human and Vaelari societies. Then, one quiet morning, a small Vaelari diplomatic shuttle descended onto Japanese soil. It bore no weapons, no escorts, just a single ambassador, cloaked in gray, carrying a wreath made of starlight-blooming flora, native to their empire but carefully grown in Earth gravity. The ambassador walked alone to the Hiroshima Peace Memorial. There, she placed the wreath at the foot of the cenotaph, bowed deeply, and said something that translated simply as, "We saw, we grieve, we remember." A ripple passed through the observers. Cameras captured the moment. It became a symbol, not of fear, but of shared responsibility. Later that night, aboard the orbital station, Nor stood at the window and watched Earth rotate slowly below. The scars were still there, lines in a land where fire had reigned, where cities had been razed, where history had burned and been buried. She knew some would never heal. Reyes joined her. He said nothing at first, just stood beside her with tired eyes and a soft breath. "We should have never needed this," she said quietly. "No species should," he replied. "But if our past saved our future, then maybe our pain wasn't wasted." She nodded. "So long as we remember, it's not a badge. It's a warning." A quiet pause. Then Reyes pointed to the distant stars. "Something else will come," he said. "Another empire. Another test. And we'll be ready," No replied. "Not with bigger weapons, but with history." Humanity didn't win with strength. It survived with memory. And in the galaxy's long, cold dark, memory was the sharpest blade of all.